Good morning, you listen to FloorDaily.net, and I'm Kemp Harr. I'm in Dallas at the Fuse meeting, and I'm with Eileen Hornback, the marketing manager at Butler Flooring Services based in Louisville. Eileen, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Glad to be here in Dallas with all my Fuse friends.
Yeah, it is good to be back in person, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So I heard you talking yesterday during the roundtable about some ways that you've developed to justify and pass price increases on to the general contractor and even the end user, because you don't want to get caught in the middle. I want to talk about that in a minute, though. First, tell us a little bit about Butler Flooring Services.
Butler Flooring Services has been in business for a long time. I have worked with Rob Butler for 31 years. It's like family. Most of the employees there have been with him for 20 plus years. We focus on commercial only. We do a lot of healthcare, churches, banks, corporate work. We have a in-house installation crew as well as a couple of subcontract crews that we use to supplement our workload when we can't cover it with in-house installers.
Okay, so you have some employee-paid installers and some out of state.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how did you get in this business?
Right out of college, my college had a placement service, and they sent me on a job interview. I actually worked for Louisville Tile, so I started in ceramic, got romanced away to California to work for Architectural Products Group for 5 years. Had my first child out there, was aching to go back home where family was. Came back, and there just happened to be an opening with Rob at the time, and I joined. At that time, he was with Kennard and Franke, running their contract division there, and he brought me on to train their salespeople on ceramic. And then in the process, he trained me on the soft side of the business, as we called it, and I became a architectural sales rep for him many moons ago.
All right. And so how's business? I mean, how was your results last year?
Phenomenal. We had a really good 2021. I think one thing that didn't come up in the roundtable was we're fortunate that we were considered necessary, and we never closed our doors. It was challenging, but we had a great 2021, and so far this quarter of 2022 is outdoing 2021.
That's great to hear. So you were commenting yesterday on 5 price increases that we got from most of the major suppliers last year, and you can't get caught in the middle because most people that know this commercial contracting business know that it's a thin margin business. Yeah. So tell me how the processes you're using to kind of pass these along and justify them.
Well, the first thing we do is when we get notification that we're going to receive a contract, we check the pricing and see if the price has gone up. And if it has, we just let them know that we need to requote that job because there's been a price increase. And most general contractors, they understand. They're not facing it. Well, we have to realize we can't be scared to say that we have a price increase because it's across the board. They're getting it from HVAC contractors, electrical contractors, steel, everywhere. So it's not coming as a surprise. I think the surprise to them is when flooring doesn't go up like everything else. And so I also try to be proactive, and when I know a price increase is coming that's going to impact a project that I want, I will reach out to that general contractor and let him know, if you don't place this order by end of the day Friday, you're going to be subject to a price increase, and there's no way around it. And usually they respond.
Now, we know that there's different personalities in each one of these little groups of people. We're talking about the GC, we're talking about A&D, and we're talking about end user. And do you sometimes, like when you're talking to the GC, who's responsible for paying you, do you sometimes copy some of these other influence groups so that they kind of understand what's going on?
I usually stay away from the end user unless I have a really good relationship with them, because general contractors don't like that. But I will, if I'm not getting a response, sometimes they may ignore an email when I'm saying you need to get this order placed, we're going to have a price increase. If they're not responding to that, the next email I send, I will probably copy the architectural firm because they're hearing it from the mill reps that there's a price increase. So then they get concerned because they have to be responsible to the end user on the bottom line when this job comes in over budget. Why didn't you order it in advance? So usually that spurs, if the architect doesn't call the general contractor, the GC sees that they're copied, and then suddenly they respond.
All right, so you've passed on the information to the GC, and they say, okay, let's take advantage of buying this prior to installation, but wait a minute, I'm looking at my schedule here, and we're not going to need that flooring for about 6 weeks. What do you do about that?
That's probably the biggest challenge, because our warehouse is now busting at the seams with all these people that brought material in. And not just that, some of them brought it in a timely manner, but now they're delayed. We're having a real problem in Louisville right now with LG&E, our electric company, getting new projects hooked up online. They're way behind. We can't install flooring until we have permanent HVAC, and along with other trades that can't get their work done. So projects that we should have installed, that they intended to install, sit in our warehouse for much longer. We, of course, bill for stored material, but at this point now, we're telling them that we might have to find off-site warehousing, and that it's going to be an additional charge for them to pay to warehouse that. And they can choose to either pay a price increase or pay to warehouse it. But, you know, I think we really have to remember that it's not just our industry. It's across the board in construction, and we can't be afraid to ask, because if you don't ask, you're not getting anything, and all they can do is say no.
Sounds to me like you've learned that if you just put your foot down and say this is the way it is, you kind of get that way, don't you?
Yeah. And, you know, when I have a good relationship with an end user, a lot of times I'll reach out to the end user, and they'll find a place to store the material. Maybe not at that job site, but if they have multiple campuses, we do a lot of churches that have multiple campuses, they'll store it at another site until that they can be ready for it where we're going to install it. So, you know, you have to be creative, and you have to ask, and you have to think outside the box. I mean, business is not the same. It's challenging for me because general contractors are scared now, so they're issuing contracts very early, and we do not order anything without a schedule. And I go back to them and I keep asking for a schedule, and, you know, until they develop it, I tell them I will not be ordering materials, and then I have to wait and kind of time it to turn it in to purchasing at the right time so that it's not sitting in the warehouse for, you know, an extended period of time. And it's challenges. We're very, very fortunate that we're busy. We just have to operate a little differently.
Is your backlog good? Do you think you're going to have a good year?
Our backlog is really good. I think that first and second quarter, well, we're done with the first quarter, and it's probably the best first quarter we've had since 2008. And I think that the next quarter, looking at our backlog, we're going to break records again. I don't know with what's going on with Russia and the Ukraine, how that might impact things, but hopefully things will continue to go at the rate that they're going now. And I expect 2022 to be an excellent year.
Great. It's good to talk to you. Thanks for talking to our listener and telling them just not to be too sensitive about telling them the way it is, right?
Exactly.
All right. Been talking to Eileen Hornback, the marketing manager at Butler Flooring Services in Louisville, Kentucky, and you've been listening to Kemp Harr and FloorDaily.net.